that, I have a really cool one as well. So while we're buffering and waiting for the stream to
Wait,
load, we're going to show off some of our pets. My non-pet pet, but Natasha's cat.
it's not happy that I'm doing this. Ah, there, she's finally looking at you guys. Now, you want to lick me? Okay. All right.
Awesome. Thank you all for
Mhm.
bringing your pets on stage. We appreciate that. So now we're live on YouTube, so everybody's joining us here. But thank you all for coming in today and taking your time on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon or morning, wherever you are. And so we're here with ADPList on UX and product management, making a perfect match, learning best practices and collaborating with designers and PM. I'm Grace. I am the founder of Design Buddies. And if you guys are wondering what Design Buddies is, we are the largest design community in the world with 21,000 members on Discord. Make sure to join with the links below. And yeah, we host a lot of events like this and have a lot of free resources. We're just a community where anyone interested in design belongs. And we're partnered with ADPList. And full time, I work as a designer at Electronic Arts along with Natasha, actually. But yeah, with that, Leona, feel free to introduce ADPList.
Yeah, thank you for that, Grace. Hey, everyone. My name is Winona, and I'm the Global Community Lead here at ADPList. Super excited to be here today. For those of you who haven't heard about ADPList, we're a community based on making connections. We're a platform where people can find, book, and meet mentors around the world. Our mission is to foster an inclusive space and a support network for designers and product managers to come together, learn from each other, and strive to be better. So if you enjoyed the session today, make sure you follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. We're always doing something. So keep an eye out for the latest news on social media. Back to Grace.
Awesome, thank you. You can check out all of our links in the chat, thanks to Jack. And for our adventure or quest for today, we'll start off with a presentation with Natasha and Bhavna, and they'll give a talk. And towards the end, towards the second half, actually, you'll get a chance to share your stories or ask any questions for our speakers here today. And make sure, another thing is we want to keep our questions on Slido. This enables, because we tend to get a lot of questions, so this enables you all to submit in one place and upvote each other's questions. So making sure we surface the ones that you all want to see the most. And I also have, and at the end, after the question and answer / storytelling, where you can submit on Slido, you can also unmute yourself and kind of share your story as well. If you feel comfortable, you can prepare for that if you want. And after that, we'll do a group photo and a wave for our Instagram story. So that'll be 2 minutes before our event ends. And also, just today in Design Buddies, we've added region channels. I literally added like 30 minutes before this, but now if you react for a role assignment with your continent, you'll see continent-specific channels that connect with local buddies. I see some buddies all over the world. So that's something you can realize. And with that, I'll hand it off to both of you, Natasha and Bhavna. Thank you.
Sorry, I was distracted by the cat for a second. This is why I kicked her out. But she's back. It's okay, I love her. All right, so we're gonna share a screen. So the way Bhavna and I want this to roll is that we're gonna have a conversation, and you can look at the slides or you can ignore them. But do know that we're here for a conversation and we're here to answer most of your questions. So we're super excited to be here. So then I am just going to do this one slide next. So a little bit of disclaimer before we start. This comes straight from legal. So the information that we're sharing today is not representative of EA and McKinsey. These are our own, to our own experience. Sounds like we're old buff now. And research. Cool.
Just our own opinions all day. That's all.
Yeah, all day. This is not working. Let's see. Cool. So a little bit about me. I'm a senior manager of product design at EA. It's just a fancy title. That means I lead a team of managers and designers, and I look after product verticals. Like the cute blue fella here, you will find me wearing different hats at EA. A mentor, a champion, a therapist most of the time, a team lead, a product strategist, and a designer. So in my past lives, prior to product design, I've been a typeface designer, I've been a graphic designer, I've also been an art director who created 360 advertising campaigns. I ran my own boutique agency for a little bit, and I also have led design teams in McKinsey and Company. My focus right now is humanizing technology and the workplace at EA, and I am super passionate in helping designers grow. That's why we're here. So I think, Bhavna, do you want to go next?
Sure. Natasha and I met at McKinsey and Company, and we both left at very different times. I left basically 6 months after I joined, and then rejoined a couple years later. Thankfully, they didn't hold it against me, and I got to work with Natasha again. But my career, a lot like Natasha's, has been very meandering. So I've served as an associate producer on a short film. I've worked on music videos. I've been the social media lead for the city of Los Angeles, and I've worked in product for about 10 years. At this point in time, I am an engagement manager at McKinsey. I work with clients and I help them build new businesses and develop innovation culture. So making sure that they have the org and the culture and the capabilities to build those new businesses and be slightly more disruptive rather than just being disrupted.
Your job sounds more amazing than mine and more interesting than mine. So,
also, we're hiring, in case you're interested. Please feel free to hit me up.
Ping Bhavna on LinkedIn. So I think Bhavna touched a little bit about how we met and how we started working together. It was a bank account, a banking client, wasn't it, Bhavna? Right, in LA?
Yes, exactly. The most high range, very exciting project, banking and ACH.
Yeah. I think it was really interesting because that was my first study with McKinsey. So I came into the bank with no blazer, rocked up with my white sneakers and jeans, and got immediately told by the partner to put on a blazer. So I had to borrow someone's blazer, I think, just to meet the client. Yeah. So
no, I think I was just going to say, this was like an opportunity for us to get to know each other. And, prior, both of us had really informal workplaces. And we had come from more sort of techie backgrounds. So all of the stereotypes and cliches applied, right? I had Converse on every day. Natasha was being told to make sure she had a blazer on every day. We like to think we've come a long way, but I think most of those habits still exist.
I think we did end up, agreeing to meet in the middle. Remember, I didn't wear a blazer. I wore a shirt every time I go to work, but the sneakers still stayed with me. So thank God they did not ask me to put in real shoes. That would have been really horrible. Anyway, so let's get into the real meat of this. Quick refresher. What do PMs and designers do? Anyone in the chat want to give us a one liner of what does PM do? I guess not. All right.
Ooh,
So,
I might be,
no.
Yeah. I might be outnumbered here. Okay. Yeah. So Carlos, thanks so much for jumping in. I think, and Elizabeth and Kenny, thanks. I think so many of these are so correct and resonant about the role of product. Product really is this intersectional space where your job is to hold the vision of what the product is, not just as an experience, but also as a business. And as a result, you need to be aware of the trends that are in your industry, the trends that are happening in the technology that you're working in, and the actual product and its evolution sort of internally. When you're doing product, a lot of times, you're kind of saying no. No is a really popular word for product managers, but it's really about making sure that you're protecting the team while still carrying the business forward. And as time has gone by, the role has become more and more business oriented and, complements that designer experience in the sense that it has that outward looking focus.
Well said. And designers, I think Kenny kind of said it best here. He said, we create amazing experiences that meet people's needs. I do want to push it further, though. We create amazing experiences that resonate with people, and we help make their lives better. I think that's the difference there between, it's a combination of product and designers for sure. Collaboration, a ton of discussions and a ton of meetings and a ton of trade-off conversations. But I think ultimately that a designer's job is to champion for the users.
And I think, I saw Kenny's comment about sort of resonance versus meeting needs. And I think for me, Natasha, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But for me, it's really about, it's not just enough to meet someone's needs. It's not just enough to be like, this is functional, but it needs to be functional and easy and accessible and mobility focused. And so there's so much about it that I think is more about being resonant and being thought of in a way that we used to call delightful.
That's right. It's not enough anymore, to be honest, because the market is so saturated, right? So how do we differentiate our product from, and how do we differentiate our experiences from anyone else's or from everyone else's? And the number one thing to do that is to make sure that it resonates with people. I know it sounds like, very high level. So what does that mean? I think we'll go into detail later on.
Yeah.
Oh, I think Stephanus is asking if we can enable a closed caption. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, thanks for that. On YouTube, you can. And so I'll send the YouTube link. Unfortunately, I don't think our Zoom plan can. So as I think of a solution, I'll send a YouTube link where you can watch on there.
Perfect. So why is Bhavna my favorite PM? So to be honest with you, she is one of my favorite PMs of all times. Oh no, she's blushing. So I think the first thing that I learned from working with Bhavna was business acumen. Like what is how, as a designer, how did I understand business? She made it so easy for me to understand business, and she kind of just like translated those business words to design words for me. So that was like, I remember that was the first thing that I thought about when I started working with you, Bhavna. I was like, wow, those business words are like so confusing. What does that mean? And she kind of just translated all of that into like design language for me. And that was when I was like, okay, that makes so much sense. And over the years, with like when you hung out with the people, you kind of just like absorb some of like their great habits, hopefully only great ones. And I kind of learned from her that how to speak business to the stakeholders. And that has helped me translate all of this beautiful design things or all of this like, buzzwords in design into a more humanized version of business. And that has helped me in my career to sell things or to bridge like the gap between design and business. And that's definitely the number one skill that I remember learning from my collaboration with Bhavna. The other one is having a cohesive view of the product beyond its role and its experience, right? So like if we talk about product strategy, and then, and then we talk about design thinking, we talk about like product rollout. I think as a designer, there's a ton of things and a ton of time that we need to balance between the act of like, visibility, desirability, and viability. So the sweet spot is when if you have a Venn diagram and then you have like the three of them, converging in one in the middle where they overlaps, that is actually the sweet spot. And I remember having so many trade-off conversations with you about like some features, right? I remember, like I said, we got to do it this way, and then you're like, but why? And then I'm like, but this is why. and and we had talked about like, okay, so if we want this feature, this meet this business goal, let's bring the engineering elite in and see if we can make this happen within X amount of time. And there were so many like trade-off conversations, basically like such a tight collaboration. Like she and I were basically, and the engineering lead, the three of us basically were lockstep together in like the kind of the vision that we wanted for something that resonate with everybody. Cool.
So all this flattery. I'm gonna have to buy her so many drinks afterwards. Oh my.
Yes. You can just send me the champagne. So the other thing that, how being how being a designer, sorry, let me try that again. So it's important for designers to have business acumen because we need to try to speak the common language, right, with our stakeholders. And also there are product managers who don't know how to speak, design. So it'll be good if we can try to learn how to speak business because that's going to help you in the long run. That's going to help your influence. That's going to help your impact. That's going to help with just translating all those like, the design words that we use for them so that they understand where we're trying to get to and where we're going together. The one thing that I find super, super helpful whenever I work with PMs is by being objective and going back to the key insights, basically just like pulling them back into like, this is what we found, this is what we want to do, and this is how that like ladder up to your business goal. Just by doing that, you will definitely be able to build a minimum usable product versus a minimum viable product. Cool. And then PMs are basically have the hardest job. They're always like this solitary person who's like, um, who's like charging ahead with this vision. So the more that they can share that vision with all of us and the more we can like work closely together, the more we're gonna drive, the more we're gonna have like efficient collaboration, the more we're gonna be able to work further to closer towards our goal.
Yeah.
So so I think that's all about, the things that I like about working with Bhavna.
Well, I also enjoy working with Natasha. I think that, like she said, product management is very solitary. It is incredibly rare that you're going to be paired with another product manager who's actually working on the same product as you. And even when you are, you tend to be sort of owning a portion of the product. So if you were to work at a larger organization, and let's say you're working on the Amazon .com, team, there are so many teams that are just working on that first landing page that everyone utilizes. So product managers, as a result, often are a little bit on their own. And so it's, I would say, really wonderful whenever you reach out to a product manager and you kind of develop a relationship, because it's so useful to have a thought partner on where some of the user interactions are going, what is actually, new in the field of design, and what is something that's tried and true. As so many people here are designers, I'm sure you guys know, it's better not to like invent everything from scratch. It's great to use things that users understand. That's why we still have paper clips that tell us about attachments, which is, quickly becoming outmoded, or mailboxes, because mailboxes are a real thing in real life for people who still get mail. So you can see that there is this necessity to kind of think about the user experience, and designers are really key to that experience. I would say pairing with a really good user researcher is also really important. And Natasha is great at just being a solid, objective listener in these situations and being empathetic and thinking about what is being said and what is not being said, and always thinking about accessibility and keeping that top of mind. We find that to be really helpful. It's hard to make a case as one person continuously for any specific change. Two voices are always better. And so it's great to have a partner in talking about how to build a product that is more resonant. Product managers, I used to identify them as Babelfish. I don't know if anyone even knows what a Babelfish is anymore, but it used to be a language translation app. And I would say maybe the Duolingo parrot could be a good metaphor today. But really, your job is to speak the language of everyone. You have to be able to speak QA to QA. You have to be able to speak business to business. You have to be able to speak design to design. And you have to be able to speak engineering to engineering. And so when I work with Natasha, I feel like I have a partner. And that means that I can alleviate some of that tension and some of that extra work and really talk about the experience and the product in a way that's a little bit more absolute value and not quite as filtered through different types of translation. That I think has been really, really fantastic. Also, thank you for the person who threw out the Hitchhiker's Guide reference. I appreciate that. But yeah, I think that's that communication, collaboration, and transparency. Those are my three. So the more transparent you are, for those of you who think this way, the more transparent you are, the more trust that you can extend. And the more trust you can extend, the more trust you can get back. And I find that to be incredibly real in mine to Natasha's working relationship.
And that's incredibly true as well. Like, we basically stumbled upon a model together, and with that experience, I've tried to extend that as much as possible in whatever roles that I have. And with so much transparency and communication, it brings about, like, if you add vulnerability, can't even speak English today. I'm gonna type it out. Vulnerability. There you go. It gives you a little bit more of like authenticity, right? So when you're authentic and when you are like, unashamedly authentic about what you like, and what you want to do and what you want to achieve in the right way, of course, things will just come, and things will happen. There will be other people who will get caught up with that enthusiasm, and it makes the job easier. And it's also easier to have, like, let's say a partner in Bhavna, and then we're like perpetuating this like message together, right? So I can work on my side, she can work on her side, and then we're like collectively trying to get influence, trying to get buy-in together. So that was the thing that has been really helpful for us when we've been working together. So I think that's a really nice segue into what makes it a perfect match. We talked about collaboration, we talked about empathy, we talked about transparency. I think what I wanted to touch on was also open-mindedness. I think that's really important, right? So like in any work situation or any collaboration, if you can, look beyond yourself and just look to that goal that you both are working towards, and be open-minded with like a lot of other unconventional for us ourselves, or like new ideas, the better something would be, to be honest. It's true also in terms of diversity, right? The more people the more people you bring to the table, the more you can make this product or ideas to be a little bit more rounded.
Yeah,
Sorry, Bhavna,
totally.
you wanted to say something?
No, I was just agreeing, like development, whatever anyone will tell you, development is a team sport. Business building is a team sport. You can definitely look out for yourself, and you can definitely be, that cutthroat player, but I promise you that if you want a place to be in 3 years, it's not going to be attained that way. If you want someone you can call in 5 years and say, hey, I'm in this situation, I just got this stellar job, I want to hire people, you can't do that if you're busy, looking out just for number one. So I would really encourage all of us to sort of be more collaborative and be more thoughtful when we think about how we build businesses, because it is so essential to enduring change, to creating something that you can look back on that will still exist.
Yep. And then like Fizz sit here, long-term thinking. Yep. Like what is it that you can bring to the table in service of like this product and helping the team, right? So that's where, you know, we should be thinking. That's where we should be. That's the reason why we should always collaborate and be transparent and be supportive of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we talk about flexibility?
No, but I have definitely worked with some designers who may have been a little bit focused on, you know, their ideas and their ideas making it to the end. And I get it. I want to create a product that has my stamp on it too. I want to say, hey, I came up with that. In fact, the features that I have defined, I have totally told people about like years later, like, oh yeah, did you like that interaction? I came up with that interaction. No one really cares. But
I care. Whenever you tell me that, I'll go, yay. And then I'll tell you why it doesn't work.
But the flexibility is really important, because it's really not about you, right? And I think so much of development, so much of business building often finds a metaphor in construction. You can definitely find buildings where the architect has said, this is my stamp, this is what I want to do. I want everyone to know that I created this building. Most people at the end of the day still don't know. And the ones that look terribly out of place, that are jarring, that are uncomfortable to be in, you don't remember, you know, all of the wonderful decisions that were made. You only remember the inflexibility of the building. I would say that metaphor holds incredibly true for product. And it's not just designers, it's designers and engineers and product managers, but it's really important to think about and maintain a view of what you're actually attempting to ship and what the goal of that product actually is.
Yep, totally. I think we touched upon leaning in a little, but I want to expand because this has been like I think one of my favorite stories so far. Remember, I didn't know how to like work on Excel.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, like I'm a designer, you know, what is this Excel shit?
Yeah.
And then, yep. And you very, very kindly explained to me why I need sheets. She showed me how to like do all of that, like, you know, complicated model, not really modeling, but complicated formulas and stuff. So that was awesome. That was super awesome. Still one of my favorite stories. It gave me like a wake up call, like, oh, I actually need the sheets as a way to like automate some stuff, and also like a way to organize your information.
Yeah. I think Catherine's got it right. Very necessary evil.
Yep.
More necessary all the time.
Exactly. Cool. So I think we definitely want to hear your stories and your questions. So yeah, ask us anything.
Yeah, thank you all so much for your talk. Definitely follow all our speakers on social media, and this time we'll be transitioning to sharing your stories and your questions as well. So throughout this time, feel free to raise your hand, and how you raise a hand, I think Zoom keeps updating its UI, so it's actually under reactions. Once you click on that, you can like react, and there's also an option to raise your hand hidden in there. So if you want to unmute yourself and share your questions or stories or anything, raise your hand. If not, I'll hop right into the Slido questions. And for those, I really appreciate all the questions in the chat. Please keep them on Slido so you can easily surface the ones that can upvote. And cool, Leonardo, I see you raise your hand, so I'll unmute you. Welcome.
So I just had a question that propped up just because you were talking about designers who held on to things. It wasn't an actual work project, but I've let go of things because the rest of my team was pushing on and working on things further. But have you ever seen things where designers come up with ideas and they might not be feasible at the moment and it takes too much time to look and focus on them, but you've actually been able to push that aside and be like, we'll look at this later, and actually done that?
Yep.
Are
All
you
the
asking me
time.
if I've ever retained a promise? Or if I've just broken all of my promises, Leonardo?
Oh no, I'm not. Not a promise.
She
It's
she
just like
she's broken those promises, by the way.
Yeah, you know.
my thing was a hackathon, so it was like 2 days, and they just like, we can't do that. And it's like, okay, fine.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I think your point's well taken, right? And I would actually say the other bit about it is that it's so trite to say that technology is moving fast, but we really are finding different ways to interact with people. And I feel like the pandemic has been yet another example of how fast some of these new trends come and go. AR, VR, I would argue, has been like a long arc of new possibility as well. So I think you're right in saying that often time is a limiting factor. And product managers are in this sort of uncomfortable position of being responsible for time. And that, to be frank, that sucks. But sometimes when the product manager on the team is able to build enough credibility to carve those spaces out, and when you've created sort of a trusting and engaged relationship, they will also get excited about it because it's also about differentiating the product. You could build an entire press release. I mean, if you're Snapchat, you can build an entire company around interaction design or around an interesting new idea. So I think that product managers are often thinking about this, but one empathetic thing I would say is really important is to remember where everyone is in their arc of their career and how much capital they really have to spend. And that often, at the end of the day, limits decisions that they may or may not want to make.
And also, right, to add on to that, it's you you don't the product manager doesn't have to be the only one carrying that torch, right? So you as a designer, you could also carry that torch. And you as a designer, you can also start like creating those spaces and like having conversations about, hey, we know we put this aside. I see the product roadmap. Maybe this could fit in here. And then you can serve, there are things that you could also carry the torch for on, and we can have those conversations. And the more conversations you have about that, of course, like, the more we could like discuss about it. And that there's other approaches into like how you should bring those up, but like the best way that I've done so far is through just having conversations and like scheduling meetings, for example, with like if there is like a new, data or a new feedback, those would be the best times to actually bring that up and said, hey, these are like the patterns of feedback that we're noticing. And then tie it back to the business goal and tie it back to the product roadmap and have those conversations again.
So I think if you want to reply, I think everyone is muted by default. That's why.
thank you for your responses.
Awesome. Thank you. And for those who just chime in the questions, we really appreciate the questions in the chat. Please keep them on Slido so we can upvote each other's questions. And I see Fizz was here raise their hand. If you'd like to raise your hand, share your stories or ask questions, definitely do so. Or if you'd like to ask questions on Slido, do so as well. So Fizz, I will unmute you.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Hi.
My question is, do you have any resources that you'd like to share about like helping to manage other people's time or motivating people so that they can help meet those deadlines because time is so important?
Talk to Bhavna. That's my resource.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would ask you. When you say managing other people's time, do you mean on your team or do you mean in the role of product across the entire team?
Maybe a little bit of both. I would say in the more immediate, probably on my own team, like if I'm managing a team of 3 or 4 people, and I want to kind of say, all right, I want to motivate you to do this. Are there any, resources that you know of to like learn about motivating other people?
Yeah. So in one of my current lives, I'm actually also an agile coach. So for organizations that are non-technical, have software but don't sell software, they often are looking for that kind of flexible work culture. And when I sit down with like someone who is, let's say, an SVP of an organization, it's really around incentivizing people through autonomy. So if we all think about our favorite jobs, it's usually a place where someone trusted you and they said, yeah, Fizz, go do this. I know you've got it, right? So when you do that, you create a real excitement in someone else and true responsibility. Now, for those of you who have been managers, you probably have like this internal panic that's quickly rising and you're just like, yeah, okay, cool. I just empowered someone else and now they've effed up and now it's my responsibility. Like, how are you going to fix that, Bhavna? Don't worry. Really, it's about leading through questions. So someone says, cool, I've got this. I'm going to go do it this way. And you say, okay, cool. Have you thought about users who are in this group? Have you thought about this platform? Have you thought about what happens 3 versions from now? What would you do to solve this problem? Let's talk about it together. Let's unpack it. Let's discuss what your problem solving could be. And by doing that, you've now created the beginnings of a critical thinker. And that person will be more valuable not only to your team, to your organization, but to you personally and to their own career moving forward. And as they think about their favorite job 10 years from now, it'll be on your team.
Yeah, and I also wanted to say that, we've tried this a ton with motivating people. The key is knowing what they want to do, right? The key is knowing what are their superpowers and what are the areas that they need improvements around and whether they're willing to work on those improvements. So if they're not interested in working those improvements, that's fine. Just lead through questions and coach that person gently into and convince that person gently into doing what you think might benefit that person in the long run and also benefit the project, because we all have a business goal that we need to meet. So it's a hard one. So I still F up sometimes, even after being in the industry for 10 years. So it's a practice, basically. The more experiments you can, I am a big fan of experiments. And I do this even to my own husband. And hopefully he doesn't watch this, so he doesn't know that I've been running experiments. But it's like, just, collect data. So that is the point of the experiments, right? Create different, run experiments, try different approaches, see what's the data that you get back, and turn that into insights, and then you can iterate into your approach to motivate someone, or in terms of time management and things like that. Because let's face it, what might work for me might not work for you, and what works for Grace might not work for Bhavna.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Grace is a lot faster than me.
But I do hear you that it's about kind of like getting to know each person individually on your team and how they are motivated and what they want and how to get that to work with your goals as well.
Yeah. So Marlon Richardson, who is our director of XD in EA and also, my manager, said it best. He's like, what is it that you could achieve in service of other people, if that makes sense? Yeah. So it's like making it about them and their career development and, and their success. And you are pushing and helping them so that we can both together work towards that business goal.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you both for sharing. I really like leading through questions and pulling experiments. I actually do experiments all the time with design buddies on our social media. I A/B test a bunch of things you guys don't know because we're secretly iterating to improve the experience for all of y'all. So experiment. And we asked some questions that were submitted, but we're going to go with Chalita. I'm hoping I pronounced your name correct. But yeah, feel free to ask a question or share any stories.
All right. Yes, you pronounce it just perfectly.
Awesome.
Hi, everybody. I just had a quick question. Well, a little bit about myself is that I recently graduated, well, fairly recent. And I know in a pandemic, it's a little hard for a job hunt. However, I was just wondering, respectively, as a designer and a PM, looking back to your early careers, is there any advice that you would give to your younger self to make your lives easier? As a PM and as a designer, as well as how to better collaborate with each other.
Oh God, how would you make your life easier in the past, Natasha?
I can't remember. Was it ever easy?
Oh, I think your question is a great one, especially starting out. You know, I was just saying when we were sort of prepping for this talk, I think the fact that all of you are here is massive. When I transitioned into product management, I was coming from, well, actually, I was coming from a PhD program in poli-sci. I had no background in technology, and my pure focus was about like security, the government, how it actually is like, you know, deploying new pieces of software through Microsoft back then and like the new iPhone. So it was a very different approach. I think that the fact that you guys are all here and you're thinking about your craft and you're thinking about how to get better at it already is one huge step. The other is really learning about what your organization does. If you don't like where you are, you don't like what the organization does, you should definitely consider trying to figure out how to find your next step. But I think a lot of us, when we're early in our careers, we're kind of really just focused on getting a job. And after you get your first one, I think it's really incumbent on all of us to really think about what it is we want to do, to keep creating those moments of reflection and think about what our job is and how it contributes to what we want to do.
Yeah, totally. And then I was just looking at the chat here. Carlos, I agree with your sentiment here. Like, you know, when you are first starting out, what you want to do is get as much experience as possible, try out something. This is when you can actually do that easily, right? This is when, and sometimes I say, I wish I'm an intern because that's when you get to make mistakes and you get forgiven for it. You're even encouraged to. Um, you know, I'm not saying that I don't encourage people to fail fast and fail early. I try to do that in my team at least. But like when you are still starting on your career, you don't necessarily know what you want to do, right? You probably will have a goal, like a really rough goal about where you want to be and what you want to do. But it's more of like try as many things as possible as you can, because through trying and experiencing, that's when you'll find out that, hey, you know, I like being a mentor, for example, because I know earlier on I knew I wanted to be a mentor because it gives me energy. The other thing that you should try, like what Bhavna is saying, is to keep a diary and moments of reflections, because those will give you patterns, you know, that, you know, how do you react to something then, and how do you react to something now? And if you react consistently to, like, let's say something, you'll begin to see the patterns and you get to know more about yourself and you get to know more about, like, maybe I don't want to do this because I don't like it. It sucks way too much of my energy. And it's not like I'm not seeing the ROI and stuff like that. So little moments of reflections along the way while you are seeking out there to like try to experience life in terms of like professional life. I think that's the best advice that I didn't get. And I wish I actually do that more often when I was younger.
And if I could, just one other thing, like take all the big swings. You're a recent grad, tell every person you write, oh, I'm a recent grad and I'd love to talk to you. CEO down, like does not matter. Make use of that moment because it is so valuable and literally just costs hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to recreate. You've got it right now. So take advantage of it and take every swing you can. I think a lot of us just hold ourselves back. So for example, I was talking to a colleague, and he was asked at 24 to co-author a book with the folks who literally created the PHP language. And he still carries this like fear. He was like, I have no idea why they asked me to write that book. I'm like, dude, because you're like a leader in your field. He's, you know, in his late 40s now. And you gotta take all of those swings. You gotta keep trying to put your name out there, and you can't undercut yourself. That's what the rest of the world is for. Don't worry about it. Outsource that work and really focus on taking all of the swings that you can and building yourself up.
Yeah. So I want to touch on something, and this is an area where I'm really passionate about. And so I read a study recently about how women candidates, or have, how do I say this? Women candidates don't apply for a job if they don't meet the job criteria at least at 100%. Men candidates actually apply even if they have like 40%. So take that swing. You've got nothing to lose. Even if you don't meet the criteria at 40%, take it. Because you have nothing to lose. All you get is just learnings, data that you can turn into insights. And I want to share a story. And Grace, this is your story. I'm going to share it. Chime in whenever you can. So Grace actually wrote cold LinkedIn DM my manager about an internship position in EA. Look where she is right now. Right? Take it. If you never try, you never know.
If you ever want to chat through something, just find us on ADPList. We're happy to find some time and chat with you about it.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you guys. Yeah, I find that it's very helpful to have like words of encouragement, and I've heard these, somewhat of take a swing type things as well, and I've done the same thing.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Good.
Yeah, I literally like cold DM'd people on LinkedIn, and also like when I was an intern, I cold DM'd the CEO of EA for a talk with Design Buddies, and he replied. So really just shoot your shot. And I used to feel really, so I'm also a new grad as well, and I used to feel really scared of like shooting my shot, or not shooting my shot in like a job kind of matter, not like the other kind of thing. Yeah. But I like to ask myself, like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, they say no. I'm like, that's okay. It's like data. It's like, maybe I should change my approach. Maybe it's not like not the right timing. Maybe I should like iterate. It's all an experiment. So treat it as data and take away like kind of the emotional attachment to it. And that's kind of what I would advise. Just keep trying. And don't be afraid to just like make mistakes, because especially for young people are super forgiving. And yeah, we also have we'll like prioritize people who raise their hand. So Sylvie, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for this talk. It was really informative. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to join today was I actually have an interview today at 3. I'm in Korea, and it's with a product owner, and it's a startup. So the product owner is the CEO, and so I was just curious, like, to hear what was most important in that collaboration. So not just in this interview, but like what would be, 1, 2, 3 qualities that you would really appreciate in a designer? Like what are things that you look for in a designer that as a product manager would be, like what are some qualities maybe that you would look for that you would think, oh, this is really good?
So first of all, good luck. We'll be thinking about you, all of us. The second thing I'll say is, really what I think is most valuable, especially in a startup situation, is understanding and thinking about the company and its future. And by that, I don't mean like, oh, how much money are you going to fundraise? But really about what the product is and what the product manager, product owner / CEO, founder, whatever the case might be, really thinks about the product's evolution as, and how they think that their sort of main mantra that they've certainly created and adopted translates to the product. So for example, I think Uber's was something like, deliver anything to anywhere. It's an insanely broad sentence. So having an open and thoughtful and, critical conversation about that, and by critical, I mean, really thoughtful rather than negative. So having that conversation shows engagement. The other thing I would say is it's really about your philosophy of design. And in a first round interview, I want to understand what is their approach? How do they work? When they're solving a problem, what are the things that they take into consideration first, second, and third? And why? And that why is really essential because now I understand how you think. And when you have someone like a founder CEO, they're usually looking to understand the thinking so that they can say, okay, cool, I trust Solby. I don't have to check in like every 10 minutes on my baby because I know that it's going to be okay with Solby. I can trust her. And that's really what you're looking to establish in that conversation as quickly as possible. Natasha's given a couple of talks and done some content creation around sort of like how to hire good designers. So I'm going to turn it over to her and let her share a little bit more about that.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful.
Thanks for the shout out to Bhavna. So I would actually think that a business acumen, your understanding for business acumen would be a good one to put here. So like as many as possible, if you can build that body of evidence, like, hey, I know what I'm talking about. I know my shit, So the more stories you can gather, the more scenarios, life stories, basically like professional life stories that you can gather and share, the better it would be, because that body of evidence is the one thing that would set you apart from everyone else, right? Every other candidate. So try to look into like instances where you can prove how your design has helped push for, impact, business impact, for example. So that would be the kind of business acumen examples that I'm gonna encourage you to compile before you're ahead of your interview. Because Bhavna's right. We all want to know how you think through stuff. And if you're talking to a product owner, it's all about business. And it's all about like bridging that gap between the design and the business goal.
And like, let's be super tactical about it. Some of those topics include, adoption. How are you going to create adoption through the features that you use? Attrition. How are you going to deal with attrition through onboarding? How do you create a flow that kind of makes it so that a higher percentage of people actually make it through onboarding? When you think about communication, are you connecting the sales material to the landing page, to the app experience? If you can show that you're thinking about these really critical flows and you understand that, there is no founded business if they have horrible onboarding, then like, okay, cool. I know I can trust you and I know I can think about my business with you. The last one I would say is probably like customer support. Like, how do you connect your product to the folks who fall out of the funnels and the paths that you create?
Yep. And don't forget to link all of those back into
your we want
research.
An update.
And also, yes, we would love an update, whether, how will your interview go and stuff like that. But remember to connect back all of this design decisions that helps with the business impact back to the root cause of the problem, which is your research key takeaways, right? Because we want to learn how you justify your design decisions that will help drive this business goal.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, both. That was really helpful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your question and good luck on your interview. I hope it all goes well. And yeah, I'm sorry, it's all muted, everyone. So yeah, we are at 3 minutes left. We have a lot of great questions that were submitted. Maybe we can go really, really quick. One more question that kind of connects. It's a top rated question on Slido is how kind of links back to the discussion, like kind of how would you recommend designers to get better at business thinking besides like experience? Is there like books you would recommend, like during hackathons? Basically, how do you get better at business language as a designer? Really quick.
Sure. So I would say there's a book called Execution. There is also a lot of content on the web. It is not essential for you to read any one book. There is no business Bible. It really is about thinking about, so for example, I would read stuff by like Marty Kagan, or I would read stuff on Y Combinator. And really what you're looking to do is connect the dots. You're connecting the dots between engineering, business, design, and what that results in, honestly, is your product. Product is really the manifestation of a company's strategy. So when you need to leverage those words, it's really just about kind of getting into places where people are starting to talk that way already. And hopefully that approach will allow it to also be natural, rather than something that you're sort of modding out of a book into your language.
I would listen to How I Made This podcast. It's a good one. It talks
Very
about
true.
how it's a really good one. So listen to that. The first one that everybody always listens to is the Netflix one, but you don't have to start with that. You can start, they have so many seasons, and you can pick with one that, you are most interested in. It talks about being a founder, and so you'll learn a ton about features and business in that podcast. The podcast is called Stuff I Made, or How I Made Stuff. Bhavna?
Yeah, How I Made It, I think.
How I Made Stuff?
But we'll
we can't even get it right.
We'll post it, we promise.
It's by NPR.
How I Built This. Thank you.
How I Built This. Thank you, Grace.
Yeah.
Yes, it's by
Great
NPR.
For the win.
All right, we're at 6 o'clock, so we're gonna do a group photo. So turn on your camera. Another tip is that I do is I browse Product Hunt and I look at the top products and think about like why is it like so popular, and just like kind of go down like that, looking at their business model and things like that. So just another resource, Product Hunt. And yeah, I'll count down 5 seconds for y'all to turn on your camera. It's going to be multiple pages, so you guys had to hold a smile for a while. But thank you all for the great discussion tonight. And feel free to bring your pets. I see a lot of pets. And yeah, all right. So 5, 4, keep smiling because there's multiple pages. And then we'll do a wave for our Instagram story. So let me make my window bigger so I can see all of y'all. All right, 4, 3, 2, 1, say cheese. All right, I'm gonna do multiple pages.
Ooh, there's a kitty. Hi, kitty. Oh, he meowed. Oh, she meowed. I can see the mom moving. She's like, let me down.
I love all of your
pets. I love it.
All right, I'm just trying to get all of the screens here tonight. All right, so now we can like wave, dance, dab. This is for our Instagram story. So if you guys want to be on design.buddies, it's on our Instagram story at design.buddies. All right, ready, set, let me hover over, go. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry, my phone lagged out, so technology. It's like that family photo where you had to like, oh wait, anyways. All right, ready, set, go. Hello, everybody's. We are with Natasha and Bhavna with Design Buddies and ADPList on UX and product management collaboration. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Awesome. Cool, that concludes our event. For other hosts, are going to stay for quick retrospectives, and for all of y'all, feel free to continue the conversation in Design Buddies, connect with Natasha and Bhavna on ADPList. You can also schedule some time with them. And also we have a networking sheet where you can connect with all of your buddies too in all of our events. Oh, that's a cat. All of our links are also on there as well. So you can make friends with fellow buddies in this call right now. Make those connections. Let's get this bread and let's eat the yeast and bag them again.
What is this metaphor?
And as always, stay positive and test negative.
Thank you so much
for
coming, everyone.
Thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. I'm going to stop streaming on YouTube. So bye, YouTube buddies.
Bye, YouTube.
Bye.